don't really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long, got to keep. But now everybody knows, got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep on. What you want to be, going, you will see.
Oh, yes.
It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be, going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony. Ooh.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, put a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
I know everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
You know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We took a break. We needed it. I think it was good for us. We've been very busy, so it was kind of nice to just reconnect and get caught back up. So that's what that was. But tonight we're jumping right back in. We are not going to lose momentum from where we were, and of course, we're always talking about financial freedom. So tonight's example is specifically comparing saving, which is very common strategy, right, to growing your money. So what does $500 a month in a savings account, what does it do? If the answer is grow, dust, and deflate, well, then you're right. So if we already know this, then why are so many Americans still saving their money and not doing something more productive with it? What if we told you that the same $500 a month that's put in a savings account could nearly triple in value and add an added $1 million legacy for your family? Because it's true. $500 a month without a plan, that same $500 would lose about half its value over the next 20 years. And that's why it's essential to learn how to grow your money now, or you're going to regret it later, sincerely. So if you're on your wealth building journey, you're in the right place. Get in here and jump in the chat. Let us know where you're from and where you're tuning in from. We love to know who's here, who's watching. And also, we missed all of our chat fam. You guys are amazing, and we appreciate you so much. So we just want you to know that. And we missed talking to you guys and joking. And for me, anyway, I like to get in the chat. And yes, I do. But if you're on your wealth building journey, you're in the right place. We're the Stidhams. And our mission is to empower you with the information and insights that you can make more confident decisions to safeguard your financial future. What do we call that?
Let's call it your WTF moment. Call it an opportunity for you to be able to figure out how to generate wealth, control your time, and have full control over your freedom.
That's right. You know, your mic's a little low. Is he a little low for you guys? Maybe we could turn up.
Is that better?
Not really. Yeah, that's probably where you need to do it.
How about there?
Nope.
How about there?
Yeah, we were having some issues earlier. Okay, well, if you guys can hear him, I can turn down, so then your volume will be the same. Let us know. Yep, Veronica says, Mike Donnell. Not really sure. We had some issues with it earlier, so until we can, figure out what it is, I think maybe it's something derailing. We're not going to talk about that tonight. Okay. Tech gremlins are present, which means it's going to be a good stream. We already know that.
And it
Isn't it ironic?
So let's get into it. Saving. Should you save your money? Should you grow your money? How can you do this safely? Because I think for a lot of people, this conversation is about safeness. This conversation is about like, I want to be able to access it. Well, what if we told you you could do that too? You ready to jump in? Oh, hello? Now we can't hear you at all. Oh, gosh. Well, I can't. Can you guys hear him? Gosh, I thought we fixed this. Oh, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Perfectly?
Yeah, you're fine. Don't turn it down anymore.
Perfectly. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfectly.
Okay, are we all good?
Sure.
Do we get the thumbs up from the crowd? I think we're good. I think we're good.
OMG.
Okay, are we ready to jump in?
Of course. I'm always ready.
Okay, Jay says perfectly.
Perfectly.
Perfectly. That's what we were looking for. All right,
That's what I need.
let's get into it.
All right. So again, the thought process today is just really talk through saving. And this is a conversation I have often. And it is, hey, I've got this dollar amount that I've been putting away over time. And it's not going anywhere specific. We're not talking about high yield savings. We're not talking about brokerage accounts. We're just simply talking about putting your money away in a normal savings account, receiving normal interest. Is it best to do that? Or is there another opportunity? That's really what we're talking about today.
Yep.
And so it kind of starts here. We've all heard it. A penny saved is a penny earned. Whether that penny is under your mattress or that penny is with Bank of America sitting in a savings account. Penny saved is a penny earned. We've all been conditioned to understand it or believe that.
Or to
Is that
believe
true or
it.
false?
Yeah, is it true or false? What do you guys think? And what other sayings would go along with a sentiment like this?
Yeah, what do they call idioms?
Yep,
What are the
idioms.
idioms?
Yep,
Yeah.
idioms.
Bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Yeah, there's quite a few that we have, even songs, right? Like Mo Money, Mo Problems, those types of things that get engraved or ingrained. We don't even realize that we sometimes use these in moments to justify or to lead us in the decisions that we make, right? So let's see if they put any in the chat. Well, anywho, we can move forward, especially the
Perfect.
replay people are
So
like,
the
"Could you
truth
just-"
is, a penny saved is not a penny earned. And again, it all is about it. Well, it all depends upon where you put it. A penny in a savings account, a penny sitting under your mattress, is it a penny a year from now? No, it's probably less than that. Wouldn't we agree?
Yeah.
Due to inflation or due to whatever
Right.
else is going on. And if we're talking about putting that same dollar sitting or into a savings account, a traditional savings account with a regular banking institution, even though they may be providing you with interest at 0.01, 0.02, 0.1% interest, is that sufficient enough to at least, at minimum, allow you to end up with what you had the year before? And the truth is, no.
Well, the other side to this is not just in saving money or putting it in a savings account. It's also the focus on saving money in general. There's a lot of time and a lot of our attention that can go towards the prioritizing saving money. So I had this coupon, or I was shopping and I was trying to save money, right? So not saying that that's a bad thing to do, because I love to save money, I love to not spend more money than I need to. But oftentimes people flip in somehow in the brain, it feels like that's the win, is not spending more than we have to, not growing our money to more than what we made, right? That's the shift here is, yes, you can save more and not spend more than you need to, but also you can make more than you actually earned. Does that make sense? So it's both of those. And we have a society that goes, because it's a society built around consumerism, that saving money means you can still spend as long as you're saving, right? But these conversations are not normalized for growing money. And therefore, a penny saved is a penny earned. Statements like that have lived on for decades and are part of it is a trilogy, a part of a trilogy of statements like this and sentiments like this that have us prioritizing and hyper focusing on saving versus growing. So that's the flip side.
Well, in peeling that back, who benefits from us kind of following these idioms or these passages as well? Like, meaning, is it, are these designed to benefit us, or are they designed to benefit the institutions that we end up, you know, storing our funds with?
Well, I mean, that's true, but I think sometimes, like in some generations, especially through like the Great Depression, for instance, right? Like a situation like that. Because if I think probably the majority of people who are watching could probably think back to one of their grandparents sharing a sentiment like this, right? I mean, that's probably, we could all do that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So then, therefore, who learned from that generation, and then it just keeps being passed down, right? Those same kind of mantras for families. So that's where it doesn't mean that it's a completely lost philosophy. It just means that it does not work today for sure. So there could have been conditions where this was the word, right? This was the all what's the word I'm looking for? The Bible, this was the
Oh, the standard.
whatever. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say, guys. This was the thing to do, save money for sure. Like you had to do that. There was no option. But this is, I think, where when people start getting older and they start thinking about retirement, this is also what has crippled an entire generation right now. Baby boomers are realizing that even though their parents could save and they could downsize and they could do all of those things to make it work, to make enough, they realize now they can't do that. And so that's why we have to start talking about this and shifting our mentality around that. Yes, you can save, but where it's going and what it's doing while it's there needs to be working for you. So, okay.
Yep. So
The gospel. Thank you, Sequia. Yes, the gospel. That's what I meant. Gosh, she always has our back. Yeah, I'm all the Bible.
So where's your money currently? And this is a modest example today. So we're talking about putting away $500 a month. If you're putting away $500 a month, and we're just talking about normal traditional savings in a savings or normal traditional savings vehicle, putting that $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year, over the next 10 years, what does that look like? Well, if you've been putting away $500 a month, $6,000 a year for 10 years, 6,000 times 10 is 60 grand. So you would have accumulated that. You would have accumulated $60,000. But what is the buying power of that $60,000 across that 10-year span? Meaning, putting away $6,000 a year in 2024, it has a certain amount of buying power to it. And when you've fully contributed that $6,000 over that 10-year period, the full 60,000, what is the true buying power 10 years from now? And again, if we're just following the, I'll call it average inflation rate over time, we're talking about a buying power of more like 45,000.
And I rounded
So
up.
go ahead.
I rounded up.
Right. And the moral of the story here is where you put it matters. And there are many opportunities out there. There are many actions that you can take to be able to get your money compounding for you. But where you specifically put it has a large bearing on how much buying power that 60,000 will have. Meaning, what is the growth rate? What is the compound cycle? How long would it take for your money to double one time based off the vehicle that it's in?
But for some people, the concept of saving isn't necessarily trying to double the money. It's
Right.
just trying to
Secure.
prevent it from being spent. Like if I need to use it, it's there, right? Like that's the part, is that it's safe somewhere.
Secure.
Yeah.
And so, what we're going to talk about today is just simply comparing traditional, I'll call it savings vehicles, compared to
Here, I'll fix
a
it.
properly structured secure compound interest account. So, what does this look like if you were to just simply put it in a different place? And we talk a lot about secure compound interest producing vehicles. And so today we're talking about a leveraged IUL. So if we were to take that same $500, put it in a vehicle like this, we would be looking at more like 81.4 thousand. 81.4 thousand, yeah, 81.4 thousand over that same 10-year period compared to the 45,000 or the spending power of 45,000 in a traditional savings vehicle. And in addition, there's a second piece. There's a piece that is really rarely talked about. This is a vehicle that also offers a death benefit. Death benefit just saying, hey, this $500 a month that we're putting inside this vehicle has a secondary benefit, and that secondary benefit is life insurance. But most people don't realize life insurance is actually two, or I'm sorry, the death benefit is actually two values. It's the life insurance you purchased plus the cash value. So that 800,000 potentially at the end of that 10-year period includes not just the cash value you've accumulated, but God forbid something happens to you, there's this piece, there's this value that will also be able to carry on your legacy. If we're talking about traditional savings, even an IRA for that matter, if we're talking about the traditional approaches to savings that we currently do today, is there a secondary benefit? So is there an opportunity to get multiple uses out of the same dollar in a savings vehicle? Meaning, not only is it a dollar that I can leverage, use, pay bills, do different things with, but in addition to that, there's also a secondary benefit that can assist my family if for whatever reason I am no longer here. And now, when we take that same approach from a 20-year perspective, again, the same $500 a month over 20 years would be a total of $120,000 saved. But what is that buying power of that 120,000 20 years from now? What does that actually look like? And so, depending on the vehicle you are invested in,
Oh,
go ahead.
wait,
Oh,
go
did you have
back.
something? Go ahead.
It's this part because there's in the standard inflation rate, but what's dangerous about using a standard inflation rate is for things that don't follow the standard inflation rate, which we've talked about when we were talking about how to beat the corporations who are swallowing up cities and buying up all the real estate. There's no way that if you were to take this same concept and then go try to buy a house, what would that look like in 20 years? It's not 66.4K in buying power, that 120. Absolutely not. No way. So that's where this becomes very dangerous to consider savings, especially long term, and allowing it to sit. Because if you are saving up for a down payment, even, right? Even that's dangerous because how long will it take you to save? And then what will the market look like at that time? How much of that will even matter anymore and or be impactful towards helping you achieve that goal, accumulate that property, whatever your mission is. So that's where following the standard rate of inflation is fine for using these numbers for staying safe in terms of just being able to see. But there are so many industries that do not, and that's what makes this dangerous too.
Absolutely. And so, comparatively, just if we were to take that same dollar amount and just put it in a different vehicle, what does that look like? What does it have the potential to do over that same 20-year period? Where we're talking about compared to 120,000, we're talking about um, almost three times. So it's about two and a half times what you would have originally had just based off standard, I'll call it average growth. So this is a low ball. And in addition, we talked about that death benefit. This also comes along with a death benefit that, yes, as your policy continues to grow and as that death benefit shifts, that is a dollar amount that you have to qualify for. So we're talking about close to 1.1 million in death benefit available to you and your beneficiaries at some point. So there's about $300,000 in cash value that's liquid, that's available for you to be able to use and do whatever you want. And then on top of that, there's a death benefit on as well. So what we wanted to do was kind of also highlight, and I don't want to get too political here, but this whole saying penny wise and pound foolish. The gap between, I'll call it the haves and the have nots, the 1% and everyone else, some people call it the middle class, that gap is just continuing to widen. And as we are headed into this election season, I would hope that we do less getting. There's a lot coming at us to hope. There's a lot coming at us that is really focused on distracting us. When the truth is, the issue here is this: it's a class gap. This is a class war. This is an income disparity. It is not about anything else other than who has it and who doesn't. And that gap, and the gap that we're referencing is just continuing to get wider. So as we or as you focus on where you should be putting your money to be able to grow it over time and build compound interest, the where matters. So please pay attention to who is actually telling you where you should put your money and what is the benefit of them saying this, because the objective is to be able to put that $500 away securely, grow it effectively, so that at some point you can actually be able to leverage it and use it to be able to live off. Go ahead, sweetheart.
The other part of this is it's more imperative now than ever to learn on your own versus trusting this person or this entity or the culture or community that you belong to. It's even more important that we learn, and that's our mission, is to help people become self-directed, which means that they're learning. They're the ones taking the action and making the decisions because they feel confident in making those decisions. And we're not the only one where they're getting information from, right? That wasn't the point. The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that there are a lot of people who get stuck in kind of a loop or a trap of these are the products or services that we talk about. So therefore, these are the products and services that you can invest in or that you should be participating in. The military is one of these cultures, right? They have created this system that is said to, you don't have to go anywhere else. We got you, right? All you got to do is elect into or participate into these systems and you're going to be covered, only to then find out that they're actually not at all. Most of them leave without having any of the actual benefits that are said to, because they put the 20 years in, right? But the rest of them are kind of electing into, or not electing, because if it's mandatory, you don't get to elect into these systems, and they're changing these systems and they don't really understand why they've made these changes. So the security for the future starts to erode, right, in their minds. So now they're looking for other things. Well, because people know this, then it becomes a game of who do I trust? Because I thought I could just trust, I thought they had my back here. So where would they have my back, right? And that's why I cannot stress enough getting educated and learning so that you can make confident decisions is even more important now than ever. There's even your religious communities, right? The same type of thing happens in there too. There are lots of different types of communities, medical, healthcare workers, and teachers. Same thing. You see the same type of vibe, the same type of financial communing in products and services inside of those particular industries. And that this is where it feels like I don't have to then go be this expert on or some financial literacy guru to be able to make decisions. And you don't. I don't think you do. I don't think that most people are, a matter of fact. But I do think that it becomes an intimidating thing, and it feels like a convenience to be able to trust, right here. I just go talk to this office and I make these decisions, and then I will have financial security. Most people are learning that they do not. And that's where this gap is getting wider and wider as well.
And that's where I think you said it very well. That's the self-directed piece, right?
Yeah.
You have to be a bit more active in this process, take more control over what this process looks like, because as we kind of discuss often, financial institutions, banks, life insurance companies, they don't care about you.
And they're not tied to your outcome.
Control. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not that they're bad. It's not that you should not have or do business with them. It's that it's more understanding what's their approach to be able to generate income, and can you take on or take hold or jump in the process and take some of the same actions that they're taking? Meaning, can you become the bank?
Right.
Can you become the financial institution and use leverage the same way they are using leverage against you? So how do you leverage them the same way they are leveraging you? How do you put yourself in a position so that you can behave and act as if and generate income and generate a spread and take advantage of that spread to be able to invest in what you want? Again, the objective is how do you what are those pieces that you need to this puzzle in order for you to be able to take that same action?
But to just tie this all in, penny wise and pound foolish. This is where like saving your pennies, right? That minding your pennies, being strict with your budget so that you can save money is robbing you of the pounds that you could be generating. And that's where the 1%, they are focused on that part alone, and they understand where those opportunities are. They also understand where the risks are, right? They are willing to take the risks because they've gone through like failing forward. They've gone through, they realize that sometimes there's a couple bumps, sometimes there's a couple bruises, but the payouts, once you understand whatever it is that you're into, once you understand it, then it is far better in payout and security and stability than just trying to save your way through to financial freedom. It's not freedom, actually. It's the opposite of freedom when you are forced to save money or live within a budget or you're not going to survive. That is not freedom. So I don't care who says it.
And
That's
it
not
ends up
freedom.
becoming dependency.
Yeah, for sure. But this is also where some of these things are really not sexy at all. Some people have jumped from the middle class over here to the 1%, and they did this with laundromats. They did this with self-storage facilities. They did this with things that other people would go, that's boring. But that was also part of our conditioning. Like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. There are a lot of people who do not love that anymore because they can't thrive. They can't make it financially, right? It doesn't feel good. You don't love it anymore when you're struggling. So this is where some of those people have said, I'm willing to do something that is like really boring. I don't care as long as and I don't even have to be involved, actually. If you've been here, you know that already. And then I can have mailbox money and I can collect that check too. So there's a lot of different options. We say there are many ways to 10. There is not just one particular thing that we feel like is the best for everybody. Everybody's profile is different. But if you're not learning how to close that gap for yourself, then you should be learning how to close it for your kids or for the people in your family and to help them. So that's what we're covering tonight.
So with that being said, what we're going to talk about is just how money grows inside of a secure compound interest account and why this nearly triples it has the potential to triple your savings just by allowing it to do what it's supposed to do, meaning it's all about structure. It's about a properly structured cash value life insurance product that is designed to produce um, compound interest over time at I'll call it a reduced compound cycle. So you give your money the right amount of time, it will do some amazing things. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like a partnership. It's a partnership between you and the life insurance company. And that partnership looks like this. There's a certain dollar amount that you're contributing. And in addition, there's a certain portion at a certain point in time that the life insurance company also contributes into the same bucket. But what is it about this bucket? What is it about this vehicle that makes it so important? It's about security. And it has to do, oh, put that the wrong way. And it has to do with that 0% floor that lives inside this bucket. Meaning, when a dollar goes in, it is contractually protected, not by me, not by the strategy that we're walking through, but the life insurance company that provides the index universal life insurance policy that's properly designed. And so that 0% floor says any dollar you put into that bucket cannot be contractually cannot be lost due to market risk. That is not my guarantee. That is the guarantee coming from the mutual life insurance company. And in addition, any growth on the money that goes into that bucket contractually cannot be lost due to market risk. So, what we're talking about here is security. Security in the form of some either it's called an index loan, we can call it leverage, we can call it a participating loan, But the moral of the story is we are borrowing a certain dollar from the life insurance company, and it goes into this bucket along with our dollars. So using this example of $500 a month. So we're talking $6,000 a year going in. And then at some point, the life insurance company comes along and says, hey, congratulations. Here's an additional amount that we're going to add into the same bucket for you. And now we're going to build a spread. Now we're going to put you in a position to where you can become the bank. We're going to lend you this dollar amount at a low interest rate to give you an opportunity to generate a spread on it, and you get to keep the difference.
And we're still talking about the same $500 a month that
Yep.
somebody would be saving, putting in their savings account, right?
Absolutely. And here it is here. It is just as it was stated. It's the same $500 a month going into the secure compound interest account. That $500 a month, though, there's a secondary benefit to contributing that $500 a month. That secondary benefit, and this is based off, again, this is a pretty basic example. This is not a specific person that I'm working with. So it's a 40-year-old. I built this around a 40-year-old. 40-year-old putting away $500 a month. A 40-year-old putting away $500 a month, if you ran the illustration, would produce, again, assuming standard health rating, would produce about $180,000 in life insurance, meaning out the door. If something were to happen to this individual putting away this $500 a month, there's a death benefit payout of $180,000 if something happened to him in that instant. But as this product builds over time, this life insurance piece, this death benefit piece will continue to increase. And I'll dig into some of those details. So
Okay,
go ahead.
but pause, because if you are putting your money in your savings account,
Here we go.
what are you getting for that?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if something happens to you? What happens to that money? Like, these are real questions to be able to answer. Because if you don't know what happens to those funds, if something were to happen to you tomorrow, then what you're doing is you're putting, it's actually more risk to have it just anywhere, whether it's under your mattress or in your savings account, but you don't get anything for that. And it will be left to probate. That's not the point. The point is, what if something happens to you? So it's likely that in addition to saving your money somewhere so that it feels safe and secure, then you would also have to then also be purchasing life insurance.
Right.
Which is just more money out of your pocket. Most people would do this, and then they would buy like a term because it would be cheaper so that they could save more, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And again, I want to make sure this is clear as well. Structure matters. How this is designed is very, very important, because this $500 a month could possibly buy $500,000 in life insurance. So why is this number 180,000 and not $500,000? Well, again, it goes back to, if this is going to be a properly structured secure compound interest account that is designed to generate and build income, how this is built matters. So we have to be purchasing the least amount of life insurance legally possible for this $500. And again, based off what I know, the least amount that we could purchase for a 40-year-old at this dollar amount is right around $180,000. And so $500 goes in every month. So we're talking about a total of $6,000. This bucket is where that 0% floor lives. This bucket is also called the general fund. The general fund is standard across most, if not all, mutual life insurance companies. They all have a general fund. This general fund is where that 0% guarantee lives, meaning there's a contractual guarantee that this dollar amount sitting in this general fund will not be lost due to market risk. How's that possible? Well, it's because life insurance companies, specifically the ones we use who have been around for hundreds of years, they are focused on making sure that their growth on their dollar is secure and constant. So they're not looking to put your money at risk, because putting your money at risk would be putting their own money at risk. So the vehicles that are invested in using the money inside the general fund are AAA rated bonds, which are fairly secure, fairly consistent. And that growth on that dollar amount inside the general fund is an average, somewhere between, I'll call it 1 to 7%. So this 5% growth that I'm saying happening inside this general fund is just an average. It could be anywhere. If you look at the mutual life insurance companies we use, we are not working with any life insurance companies who haven't paid out that general fund growth in the 100 years of their service. which means it's somewhere between 1 and 7% over time. On average, we're talking about 5%. So use it in this example, we're going to use a 5% growth inside the general fund. So $6,000 times 5% leaves us with $300 for that period. Well, this is an index universal life insurance policy. What is it about an index universal life insurance policy that makes it so important? Well, this $300, this 5% growth, is then going to be taken and used to buy a call option in the S&P 500 index. So there's no risk in this general fund, meaning the money in it is contractually guaranteed to not be lost due to market risk. But the growth on this money in this bucket, this $300, is then used and put at risk. There's risk here. This call option could do well, or this call option may not. And I chose the year 2021. So in 2021, if we were to put $500 a month inside the general fund and give it a year to grow, that $300 growth would then be used to buy a one-time call option. Well, what happens with the call option? Well, here, I'll come over here first. This is the performance of the S&P over the last, 5-6 years. And so we're sitting here, 2021. So what happened in 2021? Well, in 2021, the S&P 500 grew about 26.89%. So if we were to if someone way smarter than me was to take that $300 and buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500, basically saying, hey, here's where we started in 2021, here's where we ended. And that call option being made, again, I am not the one making that call option. Those would be the actuaries who work for the mutual life insurance companies. And that call option does well. Well, that growth of 27%, we would not participate in. We would participate in a portion of that growth. There's a cap on the amount of growth that we can take advantage of inside as it relates to that call option. Why is there a cap? Well, it's because if they're going to provide us the guarantee of that 0% floor, there's a cap on the growth to basically support and secure your dollars. If we remove the 0% floor, that means we have the ability to not just take participation in the full growth of the market, but we would also be participating in any loss as well. So I am focused on security. The reason we use a strategy like this is because it is focused on making sure the money that we have can't be lost. So I will give up the additional growth to not participate in any of the loss. So again, in 2021, that $300 was used to purchase a call option in the S&P 500 index. Call option actually did great. So we got the full complement, 10% growth in year one. So what does that mean? Well, let's see here, get it back right. So what that ultimately means, let's go here. We were able to participate in the full 10% growth of that call option, which means that 10% growth on our initial dollar amount inside the general fund is what that 10% growth on the initial amount that was sitting in the general fund is what we ended up making for that year. And so what does that look like over time? So in essence, at the end of year one, our $6,000 would have gained 10%. So at the end of year one, $6,000 ends up being $6,600 total for that year. Now, that crediting happens around the 365th day because it's year to year, point to point. 1 year point to point, which means the crediting actually happens, I'll call it in the 13th month of the first year. So you may not see it at the end of the first year, but it's all based off that 1 year point to point from the time you started till the 364th day of the year. My point is, at the end of the first year, we would be talking about the initial dollar amount you contributed grew 10%. If we were talking about a traditional savings account, I think we can all agree that your money would not have grown 10%. Now, the argument you might make in year one, though, is of this $6,600 in growth, how much of it is available to you? How much of it is liquid? I think this is the argument where if I'm a bank or I'm a financial advisor even, the difference between what you would have available to you in your savings account compared to what you would have available to you in this vehicle would be different. And that is true. But what's the purpose? What's the point? What's the goal? Why are we here? The objective is growth, and that's growth over time. So we're not the focus isn't on what I have accessible to me in year one. The focus is what can this $6,000 a year do for me over time? That's the objective. So at the end of year one, our 6,000 would have become 6,600. Now we move into year two, 2022 to be specific. And in 2022, we would basically function or take action the same as we did, meaning that same six, that is incorrect.
It was 5.
Thank you, babe. So that same $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year, would be going into the bucket. And when that happens, now that 6,600 that was already there, plus the additional 6,000 that we just added on top, would give us a total of $12,600. And again, what is so special about this bucket? This is where that 0% floor lives. What that means is my money that I'm putting in this vehicle is secure, cannot be lost due to market risk. And the growth on that 12,000 is on average somewhere around 5%. So we're going to take that growth, that 5%, and put it to work. This is where we're going to put that 5% that we just grew on our total and put it to risk, meaning there's a potential that we might lose the money that we have. Well, what happened in 2022?
But
let's come back over here. What happened in 2022? This is year two. In 2022, the market did crash. So what does that mean? How are we impacted? Well, as it relates to this call option, again, if the market opened, well, we have that number. If the market opened in 2022 at 47.96 or 47.97, whatever that number is. So if the market opened there, and then the market, and we hoped or we assumed that the value of the S&P 500 was going to grow, meaning the call option that we chose was somewhere around here, but the actual performance of the S&P 500 was it actually lost 19%. So how much of that 19% did we participate in? None of it. However, the $630 that we used to buy the call option, we lost. But this performance, our money sitting in the general fund was not impacted by this 19% loss. Why? Because we have a 0% floor, which means the money that's sitting in that general fund is protected. So what does this look like? So ultimately, what that means is the growth on the dollar amount that was used to buy the call option, we lost. So this 630 is now gone. And there was no growth on the amount that we have inside our general fund, meaning the percent of growth was 0. So 0 times whatever the amount was we used ends up being 0. So the amount that ends up going back into this general fund is nothing. So at the end of year two, our 12,600 didn't change. Now, again, this is an example that I'm running. There are fees associated with your account. So did your account end at year two the same as it started? It did not. But for this example, what I'm saying is there was no change in the general fund due to the performance of this call option. So you broke even. Now, there are 3 fees associated with having a properly structured cash value life insurance policy: premium charge, expense charge, and the cost of insurance. So was a premium charge, the expense charge, and the cost of insurance taken out of this number for the second year? It absolutely was. So does that mean this number is probably less than 12,600? It probably is. But again, for this example, I just want to walk you through how money grows inside of a product like this. We can dig into those minute details at a different time. So, but that's the end of year two. So year one, we made money, made 10%. Second year, we broke even. We did not make any money, but we also didn't participate in that 19% loss. But then we moved to year three. And this is where things shift. Things shift because there's a partnership here between the life insurance company and ourselves. And again, we're putting in $500 a month. which is $6,000 a year. And at year 3, the life insurance company comes along and says, hey, congratulations. We're now able to pull or borrow everything from year 1 and add it to year 3. So we are now in a position to borrow from the life insurance company everything that we've contributed at year 1. How's that possible? Well, think about it. The life insurance company is really holding our funds, our $18,600 as collateral, and using that collateral to say, hey, absolutely, you can borrow everything you've put in year 1 and throw that back into this bucket. And a lot of people think this strategy of taking this leveraged dollar amount and putting it back into the general fund as brand new principal is something new. It's actually not. This strategy, this partnership between yourself and the life insurance company is a strategy that's been around since 1997. Now, there's been many different iterations of it, but in essence, this process, this strategy is not new. The key here is you have to have a properly structured policy for this strategy to make sense, because you can absolutely get yourself in trouble if you over leverage yourself. And we can dig into the details of how we don't do that. But here's this piece I want to make sure is clear. At the start of the 3rd year, your $500 a month or $6,000 a year is going into this general fund protected by the 0% floor. And in addition, this dollar amount that the life insurance company has allowed you to borrow also goes into this bucket protected by that 0% floor. And I want to make sure this is clear. If you remember, this $500 a month is buying about $180,000 in life insurance. That $180,000 in life insurance is based on us just putting $6,000 a year into this policy. But if all of a sudden we are now putting in an additional $6,000 on top of our $6,000, that's not only $6,000 going in buying a life insurance of around $180,000. We're actually now buying more life insurance. Well, when we originally got approved for this policy, we only got approved for putting away $500 a month, $6,000 a year, buying $180,000 in life. But if now we're putting in 12 grand, that's saying to the life insurance, hey, we are now wanting to purchase more life insurance. And from the life insurance company's perspective, we weren't originally approved for that. So in order for this to happen, we might just have to qualify to be able to put in this additional dollar amount. What does that mean? What does it mean that I have to now qualify for this additional amount that's going into this bucket? It means the life insurance company may need to make sure I'm still healthy. Because what's happening here? From a big picture perspective, what's actually being purchased? My $500 a month is buying an asset. That asset is worth $180,000. What I'm saying to the life insurance company, though, is, hey, I don't want to buy an asset worth $180,000. I want to buy an asset worth double that. So what is that? $360,000? So at year 3, I need to now qualify for $360,000 in life insurance. And in order to do that, the life insurance company just needs to confirm that I, being the asset, am still healthy. If I was buying a rental property that originally it was worth $180,000, but the guy selling it to me is trying to tell me it's now worth $360,000. Before I bought that home, wouldn't I get an inspection? Wouldn't I make sure there's no roof leaks? This is what's happening with the life insurance company. The life insurance company says, wait a minute. Our appraisal said you were worth $180,000. I don't disagree that you may be worth $360,000 today, but we need to make sure there's no roof leaks. So that might require an exam. So assuming there's no roof leaks, assuming everything's okay, then that allows us to now take both of these dollar amounts and put it into the general fund. So what does it look like when I do that?
Charles has a good question.
Sure.
Since we're right here. He says, it's your money, so why are you borrowing your money?
So the money that you're borrowing actually is not yours. The money that you're borrowing is the life insurance company's money. The life insurance company is using your money as collateral. Your actual dollars, your cash value is still available to you. You can leverage it and do infinite banking, use it for whatever you want. It is still accessible to you. But can you take your cash value and put it back into the policy as brand new premium? There, I believe there are a few life insurance companies that will allow that, but most will not. So what's happening here is this isn't your money that's actually going back into the life insurance policy. This is leveraged money, borrowed money coming from the life insurance company, and they are using your cash value as collateral to be able to do so.
But let's be honest though. Even if this was a whole life policy, most IBCers, this is a very familiar routine to put your money in the policy. As long as your money is in the policy, it's growing. Then you have to borrow it back out, because if you take the money out, that's not tax free, right? That's a
Right. If you
completely
withdraw
different.
the money, that is
Right.
not tax free. But if you
Right.
borrow the money, that is a tax free distribution. Yes.
Right. Yes.
And so, drop my pen. Luckily, I have another. So, what does that mean now? So that means that the 12,000 I've contributed, or 12,600 that was already sitting in the bucket, rather, 12,600 that was already sitting in the bucket, plus the additional 6,000 that I'm putting into year 3 gives me 18,600, which is going to grow at a rate of somewhere around 5% inside the general fund. But in addition, I have also leveraged 6,000 from the life insurance company. And let's be clear, the 6,000 that I leveraged, the 6,000 that I borrowed is not for free. It is costing us to be able to leverage the $6,000. We don't have to address that today or at this moment. We'll address it today, but just not at this moment. This $6,000 sitting in this general fund is also going to do or perform the same way our money sits in this general fund. The 6,000 that we borrow from the life insurance company is protected by the 0% floor. On average, it's going to grow somewhere around 5% due to the AAA rated bonds that we're purchasing. And that growth on the 6,000 looks like about $300. So the 930 that my money grew, the $300 that the leverage dollar amount grew, is now both of those dollar amounts we're going to take and add risk to this process. We're going to buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500 index. Well, what happened in 2023? In 2023, the S&P 500 grew about 14%. Now, we didn't participate in the full 14%. We participated in that 10% growth. Why? Because there's a cap. So what does this look like inside the policy? What that means is 10% on the money that we contribute. Well, there was 10% growth on the money that we contributed, meaning it's 10% on that 18,600. But in addition, the leveraged money, the $6,000 that we borrowed, there's 10% growth on that as well. But again, as I mentioned, we did not borrow this $10,000. I'm sorry, 10,000. We did not borrow this $6,000 from the life insurance company for free. There is a cost to borrow. What is that cost? Well, if I made 10% on the leveraged dollar amount, the cost to borrow was 5%, meaning the cost to borrow the $6,000 from the life insurance company as of today is approximately 5%. So if I made 10, but it cost me 5, there's a spread created. Because once I pay back the life insurance company the 5% that I owe, I no longer owe the life insurance company anything. Let me restate that. I borrowed $6,000 at the start of the year. I put that $6,000 inside this general fund. It's been growing. We took that dollar amount that it grew into and bought a call option. I made 10%. If I borrowed 6,000, you might think I owe principal and interest. I owe the life insurance company the 6,000 I borrowed plus whatever the interest is. And in this case, it's 6,000 and the interest that I owe is 5,000. So conventional wisdom says I don't owe 10%. I'm sorry, I don't owe 5%. I don't owe 5% interest. I owe principal and interest. I owe 6,000 plus the 5% interest. The piece that a lot of people miss when we talk about this strategy is they assume that it's a principal and interest that I owe back to the life insurance company. That would be true if this principal was in your pocket. It would be true if this $6,000 was in your checking account. It would be true if this $6,000 was not in the general fund. But where is this $6,000? It's sitting here. Why is this bucket so important? This bucket provides security. And it's that security that protects the $6,000 that you just borrowed. So if anything happens, if the world blows up, do I owe the life insurance company $6,000? I don't, because I don't have it. It's not physically with me. I am leveraging the $6,000. I am borrowing the $6,000, but I don't physically have it in my hand. It's physically sitting in the general fund where it's protected. So do I owe principal and interest? I don't. I owe interest. And since I made 10%, and once I pay back the 5% that I owe, this loan has now become self-collateralized, meaning I have paid the life insurance company back the principal that I owed because I never had it to begin with. And when I made this 10%, I pay back the 5% back to the life insurance company for the $6,000 that I borrowed. Once that interest hits the account, that loan became self-collateralized. What does self-collateralization mean? How does that impact things? Well, once a loan becomes self-collateralized in this instance, I get to borrow it again because I no longer owe anything to the life insurance company. So the end result is, I'll use that. I made 10%, 5% stayed with the life insurance company, 5% paid the interest that I owed on the loan, and the remaining 5 came back to me, came back to this bucket, and it's now a part of my overall equation. So what does that look like? What that looks like is for year 3, my $18,600 made 10% on my money, which left me a sizable gain. But in addition, the $6,000 that I borrowed, I didn't make 10% on the $6,000 that I borrowed, because remember, 5 of that went back to the life insurance company. I made 5% on the amount that I borrowed, which means at the end of year 3, I have a total of over $30,000 that has grown. If this was just a regular savings account, would I have the same dollar amount? If this was a regular IUL, would I have the same dollar amount? What this leverage has allowed is it has allowed for additional growth by leveraging other people's money, creating a spread, and in turn creating positive growth. Now, that's just year 3. Because I paid back the loan in year 3, I have the ability to do the exact same thing at year 4. But I just wanted to fast forward things a bit. At year 3 is when that leverage starts. Every odd year, every other year, I am able to access more leverage from the life insurance company. And on average, it looks like this. Again, if the average growth, if you noticed in this example, I was using 10%. Why? Because that was the actual crediting percentage that was done in 2021, 2022, and 2023. But on average, that growth looks more like 7%. And the leverage, I'll call it spread, on the amount that was borrowed, that average is somewhere between 2 to 3%. Actually, it's somewhere between 0 to, I'll call it maybe 6% in truth. But I just grabbed an average. On average, we're talking about 3%. And as we move down this process, that it grows from a leveraged dollar amount on the original amount that was borrowed, but then I'm able to borrow a second dollar amount. So it becomes, I have a spread on both dollar amounts that I borrow. And then at year 7, it becomes 3 different leveraged dollar amounts. And the argument is When I get to a situation like this, if this is borrowed, if this is leveraged dollar amount, it could possibly happen that my policy could implode because look at all the leverage that I have. To kind of make this a little bit easier to understand, I've kind of done it this way. So again, if we were talking about a whole life policy or traditional IUL, we're just talking about $6,000 a year. But if we're talking about a product like a leveraged IUL, a secure compound interest account using a leveraged IUL, we're talking about a significant amount of leverage being added for the next 10 years. This amount totals about 120,000. What that means is I've put in 60,000 over a 10-year period and I've leveraged from the life insurance company 120,000. Conventional wisdom might say, wow, if I am borrowing 120,000 from the life insurance company and something goes wrong, I could owe a significant dollar amount back to the life insurance company. But here's the piece that they miss. Where is this 120,000? Yes, it's a large dollar amount, but where is it? If your money is sitting in the general fund, where's this $120,000 sitting? It's sitting in the general fund. So if the world crashed, what do I actually owe back to the life insurance company? Do I owe 120,000 plus interest? Or do I just owe the plus interest? Well, that's actually a trick question. Because the truth around that is I don't owe interest on 120,000. I owe interest on the amount that I'm leveraging in that year. Because everything else is sitting in the general fund. And I know that's a lot of words, but here's my point. My point is this dollar amount is the whole purpose for doing this process is about security. It's about making sure your money is in a position to where it can't be lost due to market risk. The general fund allows that. And this leverage dollar amount allows us to outperform everything else that you can put in front of me as it relates to other cash value life insurance products. But in addition, this original discussion was around a traditional savings account. You take this same $6,000 a year and put it in a traditional savings account. We're talking about spendable, and I think it was in 10 years. 10 years, we're talking about that $60,000 looking more like 45,000. So we're not even breaking even in a traditional savings account. But then when you add leverage on that year, we blow it out of the water. So then it's just about security. It's about putting your money to work so that your money can be properly structured and secure to be able to generate and build income for you. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Oh, well, if you don't move it, yeah. Because when I'm coming on to talk about something that's on the screen, probably, right? Probably. The reason why I wanted to bring this up was because there are people who ask questions all the time about their whole life or their IUL policy and why does theirs look different. What's interesting is that the majority of people find that they break even, meaning that the amount of money that they put in is the amount of money working for them. And it's about year 7 through 10. Yes? On most policies.
That's correct.
Right. Which means that you have to, there's a reason why it's years 7 through 10, the majority of them, but there's also, there's improvements that can be done. And this is where structure matters. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the people will see this right here and they'll say, well, how do I know? How do I know if I have one of these things? How do I know how to read that? We're going to go over that on, next Sunday. That's when we're going to do that. So you can grab your policy, make sure that you have it in hand, and then come join us on next Sunday to get all of your questions answered, or you can book a call with Donnell and he'll go over it with you gladly. And there's no charge for that. So the concept of why is this so different? Why does this produce? We've showed you this is how and why it does something a little bit different than other vehicles out there. But that's not all that we wanted to talk about this evening.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're done with that, though.
Yeah, regardless of what you're doing.
Right. So this is not about, to me, this is not this or that, right? It's about how you can get your money working for you. And again, I say this all the time. This channel should be, I think if there was an algorithm for it, this channel is purely based off leverage. It's where is your leverage? Where can you create leverage? Where can you apply leverage in your life so that you can generate and or build more than you currently have today? It is all about putting your money to work so your money can work for you.
Yeah, it does not sleep. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't go on vacation. It doesn't get tired from being on vacation. It doesn't do any of those things. And again, really this came down to the focus and the priorities that we have and shifting those from saving money, just saving money, and feeling like that's a win somehow, that we are saving money in the interest that we're not paying, and so focused on the cost avoidance strategy that we are not giving enough attention, enough education, enough time to learn how to grow the money. So instead of saving more than you need to spend, you could have spent this much, but you saved and you didn't spend this much. And that definitely feels like a win. Achieving more income than you've actually earned is a much bigger win. And it has significant payoffs that do not compare to just saving money. So is it this or that? Absolutely not. It is this and that. But if you are using your time to focus on how to save money, it's likely that you will not deploy a strategy to be able to grow your money. So that's where we'll leave that for now. This is why this is so important. So now go back to the where we had the comparison of the 20 years. Yep, right there. This is why this is so significant. We have the same $500 a month over the course of 20 years. And instead of it just sitting in an account, which we now know would not have the buying power of $120,000, of course, we now have cash value, $298,000 in cash value. So your cash has actually grown, but we also have the death benefit on top of that in the event that anything were to happen to you. But also, when you combine the death benefit and the cash value together, it's over $1 million. That $500 a month has now been at eight and a half times what it would have been, and more actually, when you really consider inflation. But just leave it as simple math: 8.5 times that amount with the same $500 per month. That's what we're missing out on.
Yeah, we talk a lot with velocity banking. We talk a lot about getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. And so this $500 a month, it's the same $500 a month. Not only did he put you in a position to where you can leverage it, use it for whatever you want, have access to liquidity, but in addition, that same dollar also put your family in a position to where they could be taken care of as well.
Yeah. And if you've not been here for those conversations and talking about what these future generations are going to be up against, then come back and we will continue those conversations, because they need to be had. They need help. They need our support. Okay, let's move into. Did the fun thing not happen? Let's move into this. If your name is Uncle Sal, or if you're like an Uncle Sal who is struggling to find the chat and you would like to ask a question, here's how you do it. You can text us here at this number. You can take a picture if you're watching on a TV screen. Lots of people do. Then you can take a picture or scan it. I said that.
Boomer moment.
Yeah, I did. I said that. You can scan it with the picture. Got to have the picture open, though. You can't do it with the video.
With the camera.
That also does video. So it has to be photo. Okay. We were trying to help somebody in a shoe store one time. That was, okay. Point is, scan this or just text us if you have a question, and then we'll be sure to bring it up. And now we're going to move into some Q&A. So let's get into that. Let me bring up what we've got here. Antoine says, if I'm contributing $500 per month into my policy and I have $500,000 death benefit, does that most likely mean my policy wasn't structured properly? Essentially, they were just wanting to know, how do they know?
Yeah. So it depends. I would first ask, how old are you? because in this example, I was using a 40-year-old putting away $500 a month. I ran the illustration to understand how much life insurance that would purchase. And that 40-year-old at $500 a month, $6,000 a year was approximately somewhere around 180,000. If you are younger, then that $500 would actually buy more life insurance. If you are older, then that $500 would be buying less life insurance. But here's the key: when we're talking about properly structured cash value life insurance policies, it's about being max funded. It's about not buying more life insurance than you need. Why? Well, the more life insurance you buy, think about it. Who benefits from you buying more life insurance? If my job is to sit here and sell you life insurance, how do I get paid? How do I make money? I make money by making sure you buy as much life insurance as possible. So, who you buy this life insurance policy from matters. How this life insurance policy is structured matters. So if my job is to simply sell you life insurance, would I, if I know that, hey, I make more money selling you a half a million versus selling you 180,000, of course I'm going to do it, right? Because my job is to make money off you. Or you're dealing with someone who is really more focused on making sure that you are benefiting and generating the largest amount of cash value or liquidity possible. How do you do that? It can only be done by buying less life insurance. That's only one piece. We have to buy as little life insurance as possible, but in addition, it has to be structured such that the fee structure inside the policy has to be properly designed. We haven't even talked about fees, because the fees are really what I'll call it, can cause a lot of problems in your ability to generate cash value. So it is just not a clean answer as to here's why. It really kind of depends. And I think the easiest thing to do, I look at policies all the time. People send me their policies often to assess and review as to whether or not that policy is efficient. I'm going to say if you are around the age of this individual that this example is in reference to, then you're buying more life insurance than you need, which means your policy is probably underfunded. So therefore, it's probably not compounding as efficiently as it could.
Okay, and Antonio says, hey, Antonio, says, what happens if you don't qualify? Also, would not the insurance policy cost rise and outperform the loans that are being leveraged?
So again, structure matters here. Let's say we're putting in this $500 a month, $6,000 a year, and never putting in any leverage. So it's just $6,000 a year. Well, if this policy is max funded, meaning we're buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible, and the fee structure inside the policy is decreasing, then based off your rating that you got approved for initially, that's $6,000 a year over time, no additional leverage, then it should perform fairly efficiently. It's just not as efficient as if you were to be able to add the leverage. So let's say you hit year 3, and it's now time to add an additional 6,000, which means the original life insurance amount you applied for, we now have to apply for more. But for whatever reason, your health rating has changed. And it's changed to the point where you will not again, what are we buying here? What's happening here? You are an asset, and the life insurance is assessing you as the asset to make sure you don't have any roof leaks. Again, you would not buy a home that was worth more than it was originally appraised at without doing an inspection. So this is exactly what's happening here. So you were approved for 180,000 originally. It is now year 3, and now we're asking for 360. And for whatever reason, your health has changed. Not a bad thing. It didn't mean that you have lost the life insurance you have. It just means that at this time, we cannot add the additional leverage because for whatever reason, your health has changed. So what happens? Do you all of a sudden lose your policy? No. This is a permanent life insurance policy. What does permanent mean? It means as long as you're making you're keeping as long as your what is the word I'm looking for? As long as you're making your monthly contribution, as long as your policy stays in force, you have a policy where you're putting in $500 a month, $6,000 a year, worth 180,000 in cash or in life insurance that is max funded option B, which means the death benefit is increasing as you're contributing to it for the rest of your life. At year 3, when we went to apply for more and your health rating changed, that just means we can't add leverage. that did not negatively impact this policy. Just means we can't at this time get leverage into it. But does that mean that's the only time we get to hopefully potentially qualify for leverage? No. We'll come back next year. Maybe the reason you didn't qualify was because your weight changed. You have now the opportunity to address that. If it was for some, I'll call it chronic or terminal issue, you didn't lose the policy you have. It just means we can't add leverage to it.
And
So
I
everything
promise,
stays the same. Go ahead.
well, I promise you're not going to be denied for using would not instead of wouldn't like a regular person. Antonio, who does that? Yeah, who does that? No, would, he says also, would not the insurance policy cause? I've been reading this sentence and I'm like, nobody even writes like that. Don't, you won't get it denied for doing things like that though. So that's the great news. That's a win.
That's true.
And we love that for you, Antonio, with your fancy writing. Well done. Okay. Rob says, is there a need to focus on any other investment strategy versus the SKIA? I would just maximize the yearly contribution limit without a MEC and borrow from myself as needed, safer and simpler. It's a very good question.
So we talk about there's many ways to 10. And I can't provide you financial advice. I am not a tax attorney. I cannot in any way, shape, or form tell you what you should or shouldn't do. But I can share with you how we got to 10. And that is all of the strategies that we talk about in this channel are actual strategies that we are doing. So do we use or leverage our self-directed 401k and put that in a position to be able to buy non-traditional investments like real estate to generate wealth? We absolutely do. Could I take the tax and penalty hit in my 401k and dump it all into a secure compound interest account and just allow that secure compound interest account to do its thing? I could, but I don't need to. Because why take that tax and penalty hit if I don't have to? So what I do is we take our qualified dollars and we put those to work. We own our own home, or we were paying a mortgage on our home, and we converted that mortgage based off our knowledge around velocity banking and using velocity banking to be able to increase our cash flow. We converted our mortgage that we had into a first position home equity line of credit. What did that do? Well, as you understand velocity banking and you learn how to use different debt tools, as we dump all of our income into our home, that equity, that room being created gives us leverage to use. Use to do what? What if we take a portion out of our home and dump inside of our cash value, our properly structured cash value life insurance policy to help generate wealth? So my point is, it's not this or that. Should I only do this? I think it depends on the person and the goal. We talk a lot about there are many ways to 10. The strategies we talk about are not the only strategies. Sometimes I do wish we talked more about real estate investing because that is how majority of billionaires became billionaires, right? It was through real estate investing. Can these vehicles that we're referencing, can you take cash value out of your cash value life insurance policy and go do or invest in real estate and that generate multi or double digit returns? Absolutely. There are many, many ways to 10. So is a properly structured SKIA the only way? Not necessarily. Is it a pretty powerful way? Absolutely. And if you're risk adverse and you want to focus on security, is this a vehicle where you can place your dollars in it, and because of that 0% floor guarantee that your money is protected and you don't have to worry about what happens this November and whoever gets elected, and your money is protected and you're looking for a vehicle to be able to do that? Is this one of those? Absolutely. So again, I just don't think it's a one size fits all. I think it's a this and that. It's what is your risk adversity? How risk adverse are you? What is your time horizon? How much time do you have before you need to access these funds? I think all of those pieces play a role in this equation, and it's different for everyone. So I think I could sum this answer up by just simply saying it depends on the goal.
And if you have kids, then your goal should be to make sure that you acquire a place for them and their families to live before it becomes so expensive.
My responsibility is to make sure my kids have a house.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Jesus.
we have to do that. That's the new. We don't get to, they can't start at zero like we did and like the generations before us were able to do. They were afforded the privilege of having access to home ownership, even just renting and living by themselves. Like that was different for all of these generations until now. So that's why this has to become part of our strategy, and we have to start building family banks. At this point forward, it has to become non-negotiable. So you're absolutely right, Rob, to look at what does my machine look like? We've shown you guys what our machine looks like, right? Like how all of those pieces are connected and how they feed each other too. What does your machine look like? It's not one thing. So to
Right.
just reiterate, there are many ways to 10. What does your equation look like? That's our machine, our equation, right? That's how we got to 10, and now how we'll get to 20, right? 15, 20, and 30. So the being able to scale your machine, making sure that your machine is scalable, or it's okay if it's not. It's okay to change out pieces too. It doesn't have to be perfect when you start. And I cannot stress this enough. It is more important that you start than you make it perfect. We didn't, I think Cindy, I don't know if she's still on watching, but she was asking like, okay, am I getting this right? This is how your machine is structured. We wouldn't have structured it that way. That was just how we learned. So
Right.
that's why
That
it
was
looks
the
that way.
order in which we learned.
Right. Yeah. So that's why it's structured that way. But it was more important that we got started than to learn about all of it and then to make a decision. Right. And that's where we feel like the mission and the movement of becoming self-directed and learning for yourself is so powerful, because that is what our journey was. That's why our results are what they are. It's not just because we picked a vehicle and felt safe and secure, but we also started to understand the opportunities within those vehicles so that we could make more impactful moves.
And the engineer in me will not allow me to, I'll call it, believe the things that I hear. I have to do the math. And I think, again, I believe my superpower is the ability to take complicated things, break them down into bite-sized pieces, and then share them. And so what I hope you guys take away from this channel is this is how you can do your own math. Like the gentleman that talked about his $500,000 policy. I would immediately go to that policy and I'd look at the first line. Hey, I put in $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. I'd come over to the accumulation column or the surrender value column or the cash value column, and I want to know what's there. When do I break even in this policy? I want to easily do the math, and hopefully what we do on this channel is give you the recipe on how to dig into these details on your own. Gain this knowledge on your own. It's not hard. It's intentionally designed for it to seem like it's hard, because the more we stay sheep, the more we allow the banks, financial institutions, and life insurance companies to take advantage of us. But the truth is, it's not hard. And these strategies we talk about aren't new. These are strategies that just weren't, I'll call it, readily accessible to us.
Right.
HELOCs have
Yeah.
been around a long time.
Yeah. Who's using them? Who has access to this information? Or even if you have access to these people, the people who are using these strategies, it does not mean that you have access to the information. Somebody could even just mention like, oh, I have a first position HELOC. If they don't explain what that means or what the process is, you go speak to a banker and you mention a first position HELOC and they go, why the heck would you want that? Now you don't understand. Now you think it's a bad thing. And now they've sold you on the idea that you would not want to do that, right? But that's where we were. We had to call for anyone. We'll just skip forward to this part if you've already heard this part of the story. But he had to call the person. He had to call somebody's mama pretty much in Bank of America to make sure that he got somebody on the phone who understood the products that they sell. Because there were so many who were uneducated on what a first position HELOC was that they realized, okay, I guess we sell this thing, but we don't know why you would want it. Like nobody around here talks about it. And when I started asking around, they were like, no, you don't want to do that. He got somebody on the phone who understood it, and she was like, oh yeah, no problem. Let me help you out. And that's how we got it. Otherwise, how much red tape did you have to go through just to be able to apply for one?
Right. And all banks function this way, because the story that I like is the one where we did with your mom. I was sitting there with her in front of the lender or whatever his title would be, and he was breaking down to me why a first position home equity line of credit is a bad idea, and here's this newfound uh, 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 interest rate that you can get if you just refinance the mortgage.
Yeah,
And
right.
I grabbed a sheet of paper and I just started breaking down why this is different, to the point where he called over his peers and they were standing around watching me. And this is in the midst of Comerica Bank. I'm sitting in the lobby of Comerica Bank breaking this down on a piece of paper, to the point where by the time I was done, the guy trying to sell my mother-in-law a mortgage ended up going after a first position HELOC himself.
You're welcome. But also, this is where becoming self-directed matters, because
That's it.
otherwise you're just repeating things that other people have said, and like that guy, he may not even have understood why he was saying what he was saying. He just was told to say that, right? He was only
He's here to
shown,
sell products.
well, he was only shown one perspective, which, let's be fair, because I don't think his intention was to mislead.
Right.
He was
Deceive.
only,
No, I
right.
agree.
So if you're looking at a 6 from this direction, it's a 6, right? They're seeing a 9. And is it possible that if you walk to the other side, it's a 9, right? You can use it as a 9. The value of it is a 9 because you're on this side of it. And that's essentially what I think this product is too. When you're on the other side of it, for some people they go, that's more expensive, and other people go, that's more valuable, right? It depends on how you see it. Okay, Rob says, hey, thanks, but I'm just a lazy investor. I'm trying to get that mailbox money that you talk about. Can you please unfold the secrets? Go ahead.
Well, and you can get the mailbox money through a properly structured cash value life insurance policy. Yes, you can. Set it and forget it, not have to think about it. The world is just fine. Yes. But you can also do that with a properly structured self-directed 401k invested in self-storage facility. You can do both.
Yeah. Also, laundromats are becoming more and more popular, and there's a lot of really, 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 hold on, trying to get it, unsexy businesses like vending machines and other types of things that this is a popular thing, right? The more people that are having to live in closer quarters, the more opportunities there will be for those types of things. And so if you are looking at what's happening in the world and trying to forecast what industries might be popping up, newer industries, but there's a lot of people who are going to be stepping down or who cannot work their businesses anymore, right? Like they need to. They've been doing this for a long time. They've been gatekeeping on this for a long time. And this is why I think like people like Cody Sanchez, she is killing it, teaching people how to assume these businesses when they're going out. Even if you're not even purchasing them or having to purchase them for a full dollar amount, that you are able to assume them. And that's a completely different strategy too. So she's got that's her thing and she's killing it. But if you're wanting to look for some unsexy businesses, there are people who are out here teaching about them for sure. Scott Myers is one of them. We go and speak at their events a lot. So Rob, we hear you. We stand with you on lazy investing. We're with it.
Amen.
Yeah. Veronica says, does the third year money that can be borrowed is automatically done, or do we have to, do we have to do this, Donnell? Do we have to borrow and put it in the call options? Like, she's like, how many steps are there for this? Can you please break it down?
And that's the beauty of this as well. I think what makes this strategy powerful, and again, if you do your homework, you learn that this has been around since 1997. So this is not new. And how it's done though has kind of altered or shifted or been adjusted. Meaning in 1997, you borrowed money from a bank, so you have to qualify for it. You need $5 million in net worth in order to be able to participate, and it's still like that to this day. But this strategy that we're referencing here, you're actually leveraging your own money that you've contributed. And now, what is your role in this process? You've got one job: put in your monthly premium. At year 3, what's going to happen is myself or someone like me is going to reach out to you and say, hey, congratulations, you just hit year 3. You're now eligible to be able to put everything you contributed in year 1 in year 3. Here's what that process looks like. You were originally buying $180,000 in life insurance. In order for us to put an additional $6,000 in on top of what you're already contributing, we need to qualify you for about 360. I already have all of your information because you filled out you applied for it in year one. So I still have that information. We just need to confirm that that information hasn't changed. So once we've confirmed that information that hasn't changed, we're going to submit to be able to add this additional 6,000 at year three. You have done nothing other than said, yes, my information is the same. And then once that application has gone through, the next step is the life insurance company is going to say, wait a minute, this asset was only worth 180,000. Now you're expecting me to believe that this asset is worth 360? We need to make sure. So we need to do an inspection. So they are either going to reach out to you or you may have to reach out to them to do an exam. So the most effort from you is applying, and you may have to have an exam done. It's the same exam that you did when you originally applied. Exact same. As long as you are the same or better, we will add that 6,000. If you, for whatever reason, if your health is different, if it's changed, if it's worse, that doesn't mean you lose what you have. It just means we're not able to add that 6,000 at this time. We'll try again next year. And then we move on. So your only job is to continue to make your monthly premium payments. Everything else happens through me. I am the one who is in charge of this strategy. Everything happens through me and it happens automatically. So that's the only role, only job you play.
Yep. Well, and then you're not the one making the call options. So it's
Yeah,
not just,
absolutely.
it's through you, not,
Hold on. Let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. We were talking about this borrowed dollar amount being automatically being pulled into this policy. We weren't talking about the call option.
well,
You're
that's the
right.
point.
I
Yeah.
am not an actuary. I'm not a financial advisor, not a tax attorney. There's a lot of things that I'm not.
Just want to clarify.
So you're correct. That call option and all that stuff happens internally with the life insurance company. I don't work for the life insurance company. I am not a life insurance company. I'm a guy who applies a strategy. And I can't do that strategy without your permission. So your policy is your policy owned by you. When it comes year three and it's time for us to potentially add this leverage, I have to do it with your approval. So that's the reason we have to apply. So these steps that we take, I initiate those steps, but I need your approval to do so. So again, the only role you play is to apply your monthly premium and to approve the steps that I lay out in front of you. And you might have to get an exam.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Chance, he's new here. Welcome, Chance.
What's up,
We
buddy?
really appreciate you being here. He's learning for the first time. Chance says, so am I getting this right? Buying a life insurance policy and being able to borrow off the interest, of which is something I never even knew was an option. So is that right?
So, short answer, there's some wording challenges here, but short answer is yes. And the reason you don't know about it is you have to peel that back a little bit and go, why? Like, who benefits from you not knowing? And 9 times out of 10, if you have a life insurance policy and you have not heard about this before, what you purchased was life insurance, and that's okay. And I tend to call it death insurance, meaning you bought a policy that if God forbid something happens to you, your family would be taken care of. But most people don't realize if you properly structure a life insurance policy, you can actually leverage, borrow against it, use it for supplemental income, for infinite banking, to pay a bill, buy a car, many different things you can use it for, but it has to be structured properly, which means you have to get it from the right people who understand how to structure it. And again, 9 times out of 10, the reason you don't know is because there are some people who benefit from you not knowing. And that is the point and purpose of this channel, is just to open up the curtain, raise the hood to allow you to see how things actually function.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay. Donald says, I think you were gone last time that we answered your question, by the way. I hope you saw that in the chat that I put in there for you. The last stream, so go and check that out. But he says, please explain the difference between leveraging odd years that add to the policy and leveraging from the cash value. What's the payback difference?
Perfect. Well, now
Oh,
leave it up for me too,
yep.
please.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure I get it right. Because the first thing that jumped out to me is we are talking about two separate buckets. And we are absolutely going to dig into this. I'm going to share with you some things that you probably haven't seen before in the coming weeks around how this is structured. But so let's use this example of the $500 a month, $6,000 a year, and we're at year 3, and we're putting in our $6,000 and we're borrowing or leveraging 6,000 from the life insurance company. That money that's sitting in the general fund, all of the money that's sitting in the general fund, meaning what you've contributed and its growth and the amount that you've leveraged and its growth, that money sitting in that general fund is not accessible to you. It is sitting in the general fund, protected by the 0% floor. And so that would be what I would consider your accumulated value. The accumulated value is the total between your contributions and growth plus the leverage dollar amount plus its growth. That total amount is the amount of money that is working for you. Your cash value is specific to your contributions growth and the arbitrage or the spread on the leverage dollar amount. That is a separate dollar amount that that is what you have access to. That is your cash value, or some companies call it the surrender value. That cash value or surrender value is a portion of that accumulated value. Meaning, in English, all of the money working for you is not accessible to you. The life insurance company sets aside a portion. That portion is your cash value. That is what you are able to borrow against. That is what hopefully will produce supplemental income for you at some point. So these are two separate values, two separate dollar amounts, but they're all sitting inside the general fund. So it can absolutely get confusing because if we were to kind of walk through that example, the dollar amounts that I'm talking about in that general fund, none of those dollar amounts are the cash value or the surrender value that you're able to use, leverage, borrow against, and do other things. That is the accumulated value. That is the total amount that's working for you. There is a portion of that that equates to the cash value. There's a portion of that that equates to how much you can use. And again, a lot of words. I'm going to share with you. I've done this in the past, but I'm going to break down what this actually looks like. But it's not something that I think we would have the time to do today to help you understand. I think if you want to know the specific details, the best thing to do is jump on my calendar and let's talk through it.
Yeah, that is the best way because then you get to ask specific questions, follow up questions, and all of that time is just for you. That's really the best way to answer. And any questions, right? Could be anything that they want to go over with you.
And there's a second half to that question, real quick. What's that
Oh,
payback difference?
okay,
So
got
that
it. Part two.
yep. So that accumulated value, it's already paid back. Meaning the growth you don't owe. This is that you don't owe principal and interest on that leverage dollar amount. You only owe interest, and when a spread is made, that interest is paid back. So that accumulated value is not a dollar amount that you have to pay back. The cash value is accessible. Well, there's nothing to pay back from a cash value perspective unless you're using it. But let's say you wanted to go buy a car, and that car costs 20 grand. So instead of getting a car loan from a bank and paying your monthly car payment, you ended up borrowing 20,000 from yourself. So when you borrow from your cash value to go purchase this car, what is that payback difference? Well, the cost to leverage the life insurance company's money inside the general fund, that interest rate is the exact same interest rate that it would cost you if you leveraged or borrowed your cash value. So the cost, meaning the interest rate charge for the amount that you're leveraging, is the exact same. Now you said payback difference, meaning first you have to assume that there's a requirement to pay it back. When you borrow from your cash value, the life insurance company does not make you pay back that cash value. Now, if you listen to Infinite Banking, if you've been on this channel, we know that if you're early in your policy and you borrow from that policy to go do something, you do want to pay yourself back. You set the terms. The interest rate is the interest rate. The amount that it cost you is the amount that it cost you. But you decide how you pay that dollar amount back. If we're following the infinite banking strategy, if it costs me 5% to leverage my money, I want to pay back more than the 5% that it cost me. So, quick example. I'm buying a car using the $20,000 in my policy. It cost me 5%. But if I was to buy this car outright, the bank was going to charge me 7. Then what I would want to do is still pay that 7% that I was going to end up paying back to the bank. I want to pay that same 7% back into my policy to make myself whole. But that is That is a process that I initiate, I create. The life insurance company is not going to set some type of standard or force me to pay it back over some period of time or at some rate. That is kind of my responsibility. So that's where, again, becoming self directed is about control. So that is you being responsible enough to pay back that policy that you borrowed. A lot of words.
Okay. Are we concluded? Part
A
two.
lot of
Yes.
words.
Okay. um, okay. Let's see. We had some other questions here. Tish says, okay, just to be clear, every 2 years, 3, 5, 7, and 9, we must requalify for the insurance policy to ensure that we can access the additional leverage.
So
I think we're missing part of your question, maybe.
all
But
good.
is that enough? Okay.
Yeah, we start here. Leave it
Okay.
up for me. That's making this an absolute. At year 3, at year 5, not necessarily. There are many examples I can share with you where maybe the leverage actually starts at year 2 instead of year 3. Maybe your objective is to only fund this policy for 7 years, which means the growth that happens beyond your 7, you're not putting in another dollar, which means there's nothing for you to requalify for, but we are still funding the policy using the leverage. So there are many different scenarios here, so it is not absolute. The strategy, though, when are you eligible to be able to, and I haven't used this word at all today, but this is what's actually happening. When we are qualifying you for more life insurance, we are doing what's called jumping the policy. The MEC limit was here. We're now asking for more life insurance, so we are jumping the policy. So when do those jumps occur? It varies throughout everyone's policy because our objective is to get the maximum growth. So that may mean we may need to request a jump in your policy every odd year. That may be what that means. But in some, it might be we're going to uh, fill the room that's available every year and not jump the policy, which means we may never do a jump. We may never have to increase the death benefit. Why? We did that up front. We max funded our policy at the start to make sure we never had to requalify again. What does that look like? Well, using this example, putting away $500 a month, $6,000 a year, what if we put a lump sum of 100 grand? Again, I'm just making up a random story. What if we put in a lump sum at year 1 of 100,000 plus our $500 a month? That's 106,000 we put in year 1. Well, at year 2, when that leverage kicks in, we will never have to requalify again because we're just going to fill whatever room we have with all of that leverage from year 1 over and over and over again. So you've already qualified for the maximum amount of life insurance you could. And we're just going to, every year, we're just going to fill that room with the leverage that's available. So there's no requalifying. There's nothing that's happening in addition in years 3, 7, and 9 because we've max funded our policy up out the gate. So, but again, very weedy. There's a lot more details that's required there to make that fully make sense. But my point is, it is not absolute. It is not every 3, 7, 5, 7, 9. It really depends on how your policy is structured, what your goals are, what you're contributed to, what's your time horizon. There's many different factors that apply.
Okay. Donald Dick says, thanks. I understand now.
With the confused?
Here's what I'm going to say. If there are extra other questions, or if you have maybe some just some clarifying questions that you would like to ask, I really mean it when I say just book a call. I'm trying to pull up the banner here.
And just so you know, my wife is the queen of interpreting text. So even if it wasn't meant that way, that is absolutely how it's being received.
That's what he meant.
Okay.
Confirm it for me now so we're not talking about this through dinner. Donald, just settle this argument with my husband beforehand for our future selves. Thank you.
Trigger alert.
Yeah, thank you for doing that for us. We appreciate it. Okay. I'm trying to pull up the where to go. You could go here, selfdirected.info/live. You can grab some resources, but you can also use that to find how to book a call. Selfdirected.info, you could book a call. Here's why I say this. Donald, specifically, if or to anybody who has questions, a lot of times people say, "Well, aren't you going to sell me something?" They get
Right.
they're at the end of their appointment and they go, "Well,
Almost disappointed. Like, wait a minute.
aren't you going to sell me something?" But that's not what didn't we talk about what you called to talk about, right? You want to talk about that?
Sure. So, because you're spot on with this, and that is, um, my objective is just to share the information that I have. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to educate. Hopefully, what I've done today is share with you some information that maybe you didn't know, or some details that maybe you might have missed. And then when we jump on a call, my question for you is, what's your goal? What's the point? What's the purpose? Why are we here? It could be velocity banking related, HELOC related, 401k, IRA related. Doesn't matter to me. What's the goal? And then based off the goal, I'm going to share with you my thoughts around you being able to hit your objective. If you tell me that your goal is to be able to retire early, my first question to you is, what vehicles do you know today will allow you to retire early, which will give you the permission to retire early? And just so we're clear, let's define retire early. I mean before the age of 59. What are those vehicles that you know of that focus on retirement will allow you to retire before the age of 59? Because there's not many out there. It's not an unlimited list. So when you say retire early, I'm going to hopefully ask you or to help identify what are those vehicles. Based off what those vehicles are, we're going to peel back some layers around, okay, if that's your objective and these are the vehicles, what are you contributing to today within those vehicles? Maybe the answer is some, none, or hey, I don't know about them. Then let's further break this down to understand these are what those vehicles, this is how they look like, this is how they need to be structured. From there, it's kind of on you. I'm not saying that you have to access or get any of these vehicles through me. I'm just sharing with you how they work. And there's no cost to that. And once you identify the path that you want to go down, what I would hope is we would have built enough of a rapport that if there is a vehicle that I offer that you can get through me, you would come back. But for the most part, I'm not here to sell you or convince you of anything. I just want to talk with you about your goal and let's help you identify how to hit them. That's it.
Damn right. And we wish we had somebody like this that we just could. Well,
Man,
there were a few people that we had access to that we could just ask questions. I mean,
yeah,
that's essentially why we own self-directed retirement plans, is because he was someone who,
very true.
yeah, we're just, and really, other than he only was talking about self-directed retirement plans, so there weren't the other opportunities to discuss those other things. So
Very true.
yeah, yeah, that makes my heart feel good. I always like thinking of where this process started and then where we are today. And this is why we're so grateful for information and access to information, because it made a big difference for us for sure. So Kuya says, my goal is to stay retired. I don't ever want to write a resume again.
Man. Um,
That's a goal. I mean, not having to return to work. There's so many retirees who are having to return back into the workforce now just to try to survive, and making sure that that's non-negotiable. You're smart to do that, but yeah, I couldn't. I heard her say that the other day, and I was like, wow. So absolutely, I love this goal.
yeah, I'm an entrepreneur who, depending on the day, still identifies as an employee. And my wife has done an amazing job of kind of, I'll call it, pushing me out of corporate America, but I still got them corporate America tendencies. So I get it. It's very easy to say, I want to stay retired and never have to be able to, never have to worry about putting my resume out there again. But man, the work that it takes to kind of stay in that space, it can be a challenge. So yeah, I truly understand and get that, and I think that's where it's not just understanding the vehicles that you need to invest in to be able to generate and build wealth, but there's also what's going on in here, and we talk a lot about having the right knowledge and having the right vehicles, but none of that matters if you haven't conditioned yourself how to stay in this space, because otherwise you're just looking for reasons to go back to that corporate job, go back to putting your resume out there. Hey, I knew this wouldn't work. I knew it was going to be harder than I expected. So let me go back to what I know or what I'm used to. So, man, I think I have those same challenges, Sequia. So I appreciate that.
And Charles Taylor,
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor says he is chopping the tall cotton about 30 days from walking out of Henry Ford's door for the last time. Oh my goodness. Hold on. I'm trying to find where are we? We've got an applause for you. Well done, sir. He has put in the time.
So
Well, proud of you. Yeah, go ahead.
absolutely, Mr. Taylor. Like Mr. Taylor lives in here. And I say that because I am a child of Ford Motor Company. So I understand the environment that he is working in currently and only has 30 days left to before he accomplishes his goal. I used to work for, long time ago, I used to work with this guy named Slick. He was an old Negro Leagues baseball player. He was a welder who worked in the plant that I was in Kansas City. And Slick was about 85 years old. He had put, I think he had somewhere around, he was either approaching 60 or had well over 60 plus years with Ford Motor Company. Again, still working. And I questioned him often whenever I would see him why he never left. And it was because, again, being Slick, you can tell by his name, he hadn't really put the things in place that would allow him to be able to stop working. So I applaud you, Mr. Taylor, for being able to walk out of that place um, within the next 30 days, because I know it's a place where a lot of people get trapped. That money is really good, and that money entices you to allow your lifestyle to meet what that income is, and no one takes into consideration where you should be putting your funds so that you don't have to work for the rest of your life. So it's a tall order, and it's a monumental task, and you deserve to be appreciated and applauded.
Man. Yeah. Well done. And it was we got to meet Charles and his wife when we went to Indianapolis in April. And that was amazing. It doesn't seem like it was long ago. That was amazing. What we were hoping is that we would have that same opportunity to meet people in our community all over. We got to figure that out still, because that was trying to get plans together and whatnot when we have an event in that area. But we were able to do it this time, and that was pretty neat. Okay, Tabitha says, essentially, once the policy process is created, it is locked in at that level. So if the health does deteriorate, is it only relevant to the additional coverages, right? Like, and she says, can we add lump sums of money? Oh, no, that was somebody else, same color of icon. That's what it is.
Okay. So
Hold on. Rewind. Okay. Back to you, Tabitha. Okay, here you go.
So this is where, what do we buy? Like that $500 a month in this example, what's being purchased? What's being purchased is a permanent life insurance policy. There's two different types. There's term, there's permanent. And then there's many types of permanent life insurance: whole life, variable life, universal life, index universal life. There's a lot. So in this case, we are purchasing an index universal life insurance policy, which is a permanent life insurance policy. Meaning, when I put in my $500 a month and I get approved, that 180,000 is permanent forever. How do I make sure that this 180,000 is permanent and forever? I have one job: put in my $500 a month. So as long as my policy stays in force, I have life insurance. So at year 3, when that leverage is supposed to kick in, and for whatever reason I don't qualify, that does not change the fact that I've got a $180,000 policy that's also increasing, by the way, meaning the death benefit is still increasing as I contribute to it. So none of that changes. It just may mean I am not able to put in the additional 6,000 on top. So you're right. That just means that the additional leverage may not be added. But that also doesn't mean that that's the only time that we are going to assess whether or not it's possible. Meaning you have the ability to come back every year if we needed to see if things have changed. But it doesn't change the original policy purchased. And how about this? Let's say at year 3, we do increase the policy. We do jump the policy. We do increase it to 360,000, whatever that dollar amount is. But then in year 5, health changes. That doesn't mean we go back to 180. That means that 360 stays forever. So this is permanent life insurance, which means you have it as long as you're making your standard contribution.
Okay, and now we're going to move to Shannon's question. Can we add lump sums of money?
Absolutely. We fund our policy in annual dollar amounts. I don't do monthly, we do annual dollar amounts. But we could also break that up too and allow it to be monthly and make a portion of that a lump sum that we put in annual. So there are many different, I'll call it, ways to structure your policy. Just remember, whatever you put in year one, that's what you're setting the baseline for. Meaning if you're putting in $500 a month plus a $20,000 lump sum, that $26,000 in total that you're putting in year one, your life insurance is being based off that $26,000 that you're putting in year one, which means that amount of life insurance or that amount of room has now been created forever. So if you put in a $20,000 lump sum plus $6,000 all in year one, $26,000 total, but that lump sum of $20,000 is only going in year one, that means at year two, what's happening? At year two, you are only obligated to put in $6,000. But guess what? There's still room for $26,000. There's now room for $26,000 forever, as long as you keep that policy in force. So the idea behind it is, can you put in a lump sum? Yes. And that lump sum creates room in your policy that's accessible from this point forward.
Okay. Hey, Crafts, by the way, great to see you in here.
Yeah, long time.
Is there a ratio formula that we can use to figure out what lump sum would give us the most momentum versus less lump and higher monthly? It's a great question. It's called an appointment.
Yeah, I think
that's
the
the
only way to
formula.
go about that.
Just get on a call, and that way you can work it out.
I think that's where I was headed. So,
Okay. Sorry about that. Stole your thunder.
nah, that's what you're here for.
That's what I'm here
You're here
for.
to steal my thunder.
That's what I'm here for. Okay, I think that's it. So we haven't given away a boat, so we got to do that. We've got people watching. Get in the chat, #boat, if you want to win a boat. If you don't know why we give away the boats or what is this boat? Why do they do this? Well, it's because it's important to understand that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and staying motivated, staying inspired, but most importantly, staying focused and having a strong why as to all of the time that you're spending in learning a strategy or reasons why you cannot veer off your path. To understand the bigger goal, the bigger purpose, that is why we give away the boat, and it's inspired by this story here.
In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could, but would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family, and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over.
Okay. Oh, I was like, is it gonna work? Here we go. Making sure that they're all coming in. I do see everybody. Oh, Ty, you could get another boat. If you're here, we have had people who've gotten multiple boats because they wanted to give them away. So you absolutely can. Get in here. Who's gonna win? What's it gonna be? It's taking a long time this time. Cindy was just saying that she wanted one for her kids, and so this is how she got it. Congratulations.
Manifested it. Congratulations, Cindy.
Yeah, congratulations, Cindy.
And what is it for Dathan?
Is it for Dathan? Should we do one more?
Let's do it.
Okay.
We were off last.
Because we missed. Yeah, because we missed. It's fair. It's only fair. Corvette, congratulations. Oh, if you want to go to claim your boat, it's a little bit more than a boat. So this is going to be a surprise from this point out because I don't have one near me to show you. Go to selfdirected.info/live. It's right down there. And then you're going to click on winner or go to selfdirected.info/winner. You can get there that way too. And go get your boats.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the winners.
Congrats. Okay, and maybe we should have the option to just get extra boats if you want to get some for your kids, huh? I don't know. We'll try to figure that out. I think we've answered all the questions, so that's good. We were trying to keep it kind of short. Big update. We are going to make some changes especially over this next month, just to try to see if we can figure out a different flow or momentum that will help us over here on our end anyways. Keep up, stay organized, and make sure that we're maintaining balance too. This means that we're not going to come on Wednesdays anymore. We're just going to live stream on Sundays, but this will give us an opportunity to release shorter content for those who are going, can you please, these 2-hour live streams, I can't do everything as a 2-hour live stream. And we hear you. The only way that we can do that with the bandwidth that we have and the team that we currently have is to say, we have to find a way for this and that. Yeah, I'm the team. I'm the team. We're the team. So just to make sure that we're serving from the best place that we can serve and making sure that we can show up and serve in the ways that we want to serve. We realized that the traveling and trying to keep up we weren't showing up as our best last time. So we needed to rest and we needed to make sure that was a part of the equation so that we can reach our goal, right? And we can help everyone reach their goal. So we are grateful for your understanding. And we'll just see how this goes. So we'll be back here live on Sunday, but this week we're going to be releasing some content around and kind of trickling out to lead up to the conversation that we're going to have on Sunday, which is another case study. Kind of leads into how to read a policy and why this is different than other policies based on a question that a couple asked us during an appointment. So that's what we're going to cover as a case study next week. It's a military couple who was wanting to compare against some of the other things that they're doing. So if that's you and that applies to you, then be sure to tune in or share. Tell a friend to tell a friend, of course. All right, that's it. So thank you guys for this love. We're just going to throw it up here for the chat because this is the thing. Thank you so much for your support and understanding because we did not know how this was going to go over, but we really do appreciate you guys. And we have the best community. We're forming the best community right here in the chat, over on Facebook. We really appreciate you guys and the time that you spend here with us. Honestly, we could not thank you enough for the time that you invest with us. You're investing in yourself, investing with us. We understand because time is the most valuable asset that we have. So we can't, we're behind you, whatever you decide. Thank you. Yes, we can't deny that. And on that note, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. So don't sleep on those. We will be back here next Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all the standard times in between. We really thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you back on Sunday. Bye.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.